Hey team, welcome back to Spec. I've been putting my Mach 1 back together after I put it into a tyre barrier, and I've got it to a roller, and I can only get it to crank but not start. Today we're going to fix that. Come on, let's get into it.
I'll give you a quick look at what it's doing. The car boots up fine. When you get through all the warnings, you can see that even though I know there is at least a quarter of a tank in there, the gauge is showing empty. I've run all the reset procedures that I can find on the car and it didn't change anything. And I plugged in my OBD code reader and again nothing showed up. Lucky for me, my mate Damo has Forscan and the CAN switch that you can go deep into the PCM. After he connected the car, there were just a few codes showing. But after having a bit of a scroll through all of them, it was time to purge the system and clear them out. Bugger! After clearing the codes, we're still getting the same thing. Crank, no fire. Two codes kept coming back. One was quite obvious to the driver's seatbelt that deployed in the accident, but the other was P1243, listed as second fuel pump fault or ground fault, but apparently it also comes up if there's a mismatch in fuel level between the left and right side of the fuel tank. I quickly pulled the seat out to make sure all the plugs were still connected, but everything was fine. Unfortunately, we cranked the car so many times we flattened the battery. So I pulled out the battery, put it on charge, and let Damo go home until I had the car ready to go again. Now what was going on must have annoyed him just as much as me. Before I'd even got myself home, he'd sent me a message to show me this page on Mustang 6G. This car got curbed so hard that the fuel pump bed up and supposedly wouldn't pick up fuel anymore. Less violent than what I put my Mach 1 through, so I definitely thought it could have been happening with mine too. I'd already checked the fuel pump fuse and relay, but I hadn't checked the pump itself because it was working on the way into the tyre barrier, so I assumed that it'd still be working. The only way to check if the pump wasn't bent up like the one in the forum was to pull the fuel pump out. Before doing that, I was sick of fighting this curtain airbag every time I tried to get in and out. With a pair of scissors, I cut the straps holding the cushion and let it hang out of the way. I already had the seat bottom out, so I just had to disconnect the electrical connection. Then I could unplug the fuel line by removing the locking clip and then pressing the button on the side of the connector. I'm lucky that I've already drained most of the fuel out of here by all the times I've tried to start it. It didn't spill much fuel at all. Then I could remove the retaining ring. There is a number of ways you can do this. The ring locks into tabs over little humps. One way is to get a punch or similar and slowly work around the ring, turning it over them. But I cheated and bought a fuel pump ring removal tool, which is actually cheap as. And after putting a breaker bar on, I gave it a couple of thumps and the ring came straight off. I started to pull the fuel pump out and my heart sank. I could see the fuel was brimming to the top of the tank. But lifting a little bit further, eureka! Yep, that'll do it. I'd better pull that out. I started to wriggle the old fuel pump out. There wasn't much still holding onto it. It was actually a bit of a snake. And because I wasn't standing the bowl up, I got a fair bit of spillage. Note to self, make sure it's standing up. Then I could remove the clip retaining the crossover pipe and disconnect that too. I put my thumb over the hole to make sure I didn't spill any more fuel and then removed it from the car. If we have a look at the old fuel pump, I'm pretty sure you can see why it wasn't working. Both the drop rods are disconnected and the bowl must have moved so much that both the fuel pump and level sensor were disconnected. It's lucky that the plugs did pull out. It probably would have worked otherwise. I would have had intermittent issues down the track and not known what was going on. The rods connecting the top to the bottom aren't the strongest things in the world. And while I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that the hat and the bowl are used for different applications and the drop rods change depending on the application. But I could be completely wrong. Time to put the new fuel pump in. Before installing the new pump, I checked that the rubber seal was still seated in the right position. The crossover pipe had fallen into the bottom of the tank, so I had to dive in for it. But once I found it, I could put it back onto the bottom of the bowl and put the locking clip on. Now these go in one way. I had a 50-50 chance of getting it right, but I stuffed it. But after turning around, I could lock it back into place. Then I could feed the new fuel pump in. This is a genuine unit from Ford. I was going to do a bit of a may as well replacement and go for an aftermarket one capable of slightly higher horsepower. But when I got a quote for this over the counter, I had to buy it. It was under $400. I was expecting $800 to $1,000 based on US prices for the same thing. What a steal! Once the fuel pump was in place, I could start to install the locking ring. and then using the tool again, knock it into place. With the fuel pump locked in place, I could do a bit of a cleanup. Clip the fuel line on and lock it into place. This locking clip only goes on one way too. And then I could plug the cable back in. Time to test it out. I started by switching the ignition and clearing all the screen notices. It already looks promising, we have fuel again! Time to hit the starter. It's alive! Makes sense now why all these searches that I looked at originally didn't state the fix. They were all threads about people asking about resetting the car that had an airbag go off and it would crank but show no fuel. Good chance all of those asking the question found out that it wasn't a reset at all, but a fuel pump issue, and felt too silly or had simply moved on and didn't close out the thread. But now we're back. We have a runner. Question is it a driver? Time to find out. Well, it is, but it isn't. I won't be going any faster than car park speeds at the moment. There is a small backing shield on the front disc that was bent from the impact. We straightened it out and put it back on. Unfortunately, it sounds like this is rubbing on the disc. And funnily enough, the rear guard is rubbing on the tyre. Who would have thunk it? But other than that, it is actually working pretty good. Yes, low speed, but it's tracking pretty good with my eyeball wheel alignment, and they are the only funny noises that I can hear at the moment. The question is, what does it cost me so far to get it driving again? Well, in the end, I had to fix the lower control arm, $400, a tie rod end, $120, get the tyres reseated on the rims for $30, both the engine and transmission cooler, $2,000, but that was for 3. The transmission cooler that arrived damaged was going to cost me as much to ship back as I would have been refunded, so I just kept it and I'll use it later. And the fuel pump, $380. So I'm just under 3k and it's running and driving-ish again. All in all, not too bad considering they're all genuine Ford parts, and it went into that tyre barrier pretty hard. Biggest plus is it isn't a paperweight in the workshop anymore. If I need to move it out of the way, I can do it under its own steam. I've already started collecting some of the body bits, but there are a number that I still need to source. In the new year, I'll start looking at getting the cosmetic work done so we can start burning up the streets again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep following the journey, and remember, there's more to going fast than going fast. Catch you later.